This is the gear that my dad used, and I had very similar gear on my very first backpacking and camping trips. And it really got me thinking, have we actually improved backpacking gear, or have we lost something special along the way?
Gear up and get outside.
So this week I was actually packing to prepare for a backpacking trip I have coming up in about a week. So I had all my stuff laid out, getting it ready. At the same time, this was sitting in my garage because I took it from my dad's house after he suggested, Chase, maybe you should make a video about this. It's kind of cool stuff. Most of the gear I'm currently using has been released within the last few years. It's 2025 right now, so this is all after 2020 or later. Whereas here, this is about 1990, early 1990s. You know, this Kelty Trekker backpacker. In fact, it was hilarious because my dad still had this original little user guide in the map pocket. But this is an iconic pack. I mean, Kelty has been around forever. And even today, you can buy a very similar version of this pack, probably the same frame, for about 250 bucks. So that right there might be a signal that not everyone has gone ultralight or even lightweight, which kind of makes me wonder sometimes what all the hype is about. So let's take a trip down memory lane and look at some of this gear, compare it to what we have today, and see what we can learn from it. These old backpacks themselves were known for being extremely durable and reliable. They just lasted an incredibly long time. I mean, this is still trail-worthy today. This frame is made of aluminum, and the pack itself is made of probably polyester, definitely synthetic materials. Some that we still might see today, although a bit thicker and heavier than what we see on most modern packs. The hip belt is more rudimentary, but it's nice and thick. Same story on the backpack straps, nothing fancy about it, but it does the job. And you still had decent back ventilation, even with these big external packs. But these things are tanks, just super durable and very repairable. I mean, look, apparently we lost a little clevis pin here, so my dad put a bolt and a wing nut on there. Gets the job done. Straps were the name of the game, and when you didn't have straps, you used shoelaces to tie something or other on there. I remember having my pack, it was also a Kelty, very similar to this, but like a youth-size frame. And I thought it was cool just to have as much stuff as possible dangling about. I don't fancy that so much now, but I appreciate the utility of these packs. It was also all about the pockets. So many pockets, pockets everywhere. I recall going on my first 50-miler as a Boy Scout and being really proud when my pack was about 50 pounds or just a little lighter. I was a scrawny kid at the time, and that was probably about half of my body weight. But I didn't seem to care at the time. It seemed to be less about comfort and features back then, and more about the versatility, the durability, the simplicity, and how much stuff you could pack on it. The more weight a pack was capable of carrying, the more interesting it was. And let's be honest, there weren't very many different designs of packs back then. By contrast, these newfangled packs of today are lightweight, comfortable, ergonomic, and they have a lot of design features that make them interesting, but sometimes these more complicated designs come at the cost of durability. It's not to say I don't like a lightweight pack like this. I mean, you look at this, we've got more sophisticated straps that are supposed to allow more airflow. We've got this trampoline back, we've got an internal frame that's integrated with very thin gauge metal compared to what we see on that Kelty. More adjustments than ever before to help it fit your body right. And then, of course, all the materials are thin and lightweight. Even that waist belt is a fraction of the thickness of on the older external frame packs. Could I carry 50 pounds in this pack? Maybe, but it wouldn't be comfortable. Then again, today, my goal, and many of your goal, is probably to cut weight as much as possible, because we've got this idea that comfort is king while hiking, and that means we must have a lightweight pack. That becomes even more apparent when you're looking at ultralight gear like this Gossamer Gear Gorilla Pack, which weighs about 2 pounds. And you can even make it lighter by pulling the frame out, taking the waist belt off, and just making this thing as light as possible. Some hikers believe that is the way to go, and that is the only way. But that's not how we used to think about things. Which one would you rather use, new or old? If you like the new one, hit the like button for me. If you like the old one and you still use it, leave a comment below. I'm very curious to hear your story. Comfort versus character. Newer gear emphasizes comfort and convenience. Older gear inherently required acceptance of discomfort, encouraging grit and a greater appreciation for simplicity. So tents are an interesting one. This is one that maybe hasn't changed or evolved as much as some of the other gear we use. I mean, in car camping, canvas tents, bigger, heavier materials used to be a big thing in the past, but honestly, they still are today, as you probably know from some of my car camping tent videos, I like a big, nice canvas tent. But for backpacking, lightweight has always been somewhat of a priority. It had to be able to pack down and go on your back. This is an REI half dome 2-person tent that's probably at least 30 years old, from the 90s. This is a Mountain Hardwear Nimbus 2-person tent that's only a few years old. Obviously, this isn't apples and apples. These are different tents, but general design things we've seen change have been like getting rid of material. And to do that, we make tents now shorter with less headroom. We make them of more mesh, and the inner tent anyway. Both of these do have rain flies. We're using materials like nylon and seal nylon, or even Dyneema, really highly resistant composite fabrics that are awesome but expensive compared to the older stuff that was probably largely polyester with a little bit of nylon coming on even in this day and age. But fundamentally, they're similar designs. Poles, stakes, shelter. However, this one is going to be much lighter weight than this one. But at what cost? Over-optimization. Modern ultralight gear, though impressive, often sacrifices things like durability and longevity for weight and comfort or convenience. And sometimes designs make those sacrifices to only shed minimal weight. And sometimes that may just result in gear that fails when conditions get tough. Hey, if you love the outdoors and you're into outdoor gear, but also stories, tips, and tricks about how to have a better time when you're out camping, hiking, and doing other things, you're really going to enjoy the Honey Hole email newsletter. I send this email out once a week, and I include the top 5 outdoor gear deals we're finding, and you'll also be included in our weekly gear giveaways. You can sign up for free at the link up here or down below. Here's the first mummy bag I got when I was a Boy Scout. And I used to sleep on a closed cell foam pad like this. This is a newer one. I don't have the original, but it was about the same. Just maybe not even a ½ inch thick, about a ¼ inch thick. That was all there was between me and the ground. Some thru hikers still like that kind of business, but not me. I like to sleep comfortable now. But look how bulky this stuff is. By contrast, here's my modern down mummy bag that I use for backpacking sometimes. This synthetic fill old sleeping bag is much larger, takes a lot more real estate in the pack, not to mention that it weighs way more. When I weighed my current sleep system, a sleeping bag, a sleeping pad, and even a pillow, it came in at about 4.5 pounds. But when I weighed this old sleeping system I used to sleep on as a kid, it came in at almost 9.5 pounds for the sleeping bag and an air mattress. And I didn't even have a pillow. While some of those old sleeping bags and foam sleeping pads were rugged and reliable and durable, the same cannot be said for the OG air mattresses. Like this old rubber air mattress we got from the Army Navy surplus store back in the day. This thing, first of all, is super heavy, and second of all, it would be flat almost every time you woke up, even back then. But I'm kind of curious to see if I can get it to inflate today. Too bad we didn't have these tiny air pumps back then. So newfangled sleeping systems like down quilts, down sleeping bags, these new air mattresses that are becoming very comfortable whilst also being lightweight have really made sleeping outside a far more comfortable experience in some respects. But these modern materials often come with some downsides. Perhaps they're more susceptible to being torn or punctured, and they may have a shorter lifespan overall, simply because there's always something new coming out. But I still have some fantastic memories in that old sleeping bag, and 30 years later, my kids still use it today. Complexity and fragility. New designs often have intricate mechanisms and design features that make them a little bit more susceptible to failure. For example, these sleeping pads. Very intricate designs that do a great job at keeping us warmer and more comfortable while still cutting a lot of weight. However, they can puncture and they can be tricky to repair. But over time, these pads break down and may just need to be replaced. Or we're just gonna want the next new thing because we've got this gear obsession. I know that's a problem for me. How about you guys? Cooking systems, another important part of your backpacking kit. Here is a Coleman Feather 400 from the 1990s, maybe before. And here is an MSR Pocket Rocket 2 that only weighs a handful of grams. But what's real fun about this is to see what we used to eat off of, because I don't do this quite the same anymore. Today I use this. If I'm gonna share a meal, I'll take this little plastic foldable bowl, if I even need it. Or I just eat straight out of my titanium pot here. I like to carry a little bit bigger pot than some. And then I've got a long-handled spork so I can eat straight out of those Mountain House bags if that's what I mean. But here's a mess kit like what I used to use. This one's actually pretty darn lightweight. This would be fun to use. Check that out. It even has the Boy Scouts of America insignia on it. This is sanctioned product. Feels to be made out of aluminum, but you end up with a bowl and a pan. Here's another. A little bit heavier duty on this one. Oh, there we go. There's the pot you used to get with these. Hey, good as new. Here's another one. I remember this being a fun one too, different shape, like a divider plate. Much heavier. I think this was Army surplus. There's your divider plate. Little pan to cook on. Oh, nice. Oh, this is cool. This would actually still be useful today because these are pretty light. Look at that. A pouch cozy. An insulator bag for keeping alpine air foods hot. All right, if we isolate this out a little bit, get rid of the extras. Here's what we used to pack. Here's what I pack today. Fundamentally, all the same components are there, but the weight is dramatically less. Although it still blows my mind how much you might pay for a titanium spork or pot. This new stuff is pretty fast, boils and cooks much faster. It's also lighter and more efficient, but you've got these disposable fuel canisters that are kind of a strain on the environment and also just a pain to deal with and recycle. Environmental impact. This is another issue we often have with modern outdoor gear. The use of synthetic fabrics, disposable fuel canisters, and reliance on overseas manufacturing consumes a lot from our environment. If you're still using your older gear today, that means you're not consuming more resources by consuming new gear. And I do believe we have a problem with overconsumption of outdoor gear today. Look, modern gear can be overwhelming. It's insane the number of choices you have, the number of gadgets and gizmos and things that we feel like we need to put in our packs. But I don't remember relying on a satellite device back in the day to either find my way or feel safe. Relied more on maps and my own skills that I learned as a Boy Scout to be safe out there. I mean, look at my poop kit. Little ultralight aluminum shovels for digging cat holes, or a little plastic bidet to put in my smart water bottle. A little Bluetooth thermometer. Did I ever think about that as a teenager or wish I had one? I doubt it. I know I said I didn't think about having a thermometer, but apparently my dad did because this was in his pack. It's often marketing hype and trends that drive our gear choices today rather than necessity or practical improvements. Older gear was simpler. You had fewer choices and more clarity, like a menu at a French restaurant instead of the Cheesecake Factory. Skill and self-reliance. Modern gear can encourage dependence on technology, gadgets, and gizmos. In the olden days, backpackers relied on practical skills, adaptability, and ingenuity to enhance their outdoor experience and satisfaction. While I think that still happens today to an extent, I do think we've lost our way there a bit. There's a dark side of modern hiking gear. Disposability, cost, overseas manufacturing. With mergers and consolidation within the outdoor industry over the past several years, there seems to be a loss of connection between gear designers and outdoor enthusiasts who use it. But don't get all depressed just yet, because there has been a rise in small businesses and this cottage gear industry within the hiking and backpacking space especially. More so, I think, than other parts of the outdoor industry. Just look at a place like Garage Grown Gear, and this is not sponsored, by the way, even if I am wearing one of their t-shirts that I purchased with my very own money. They sell all kinds of gear that is often made by small businesses, even here in the USA. There are other bigger companies doing good things too, and it doesn't mean everything's gone by the wayside. I just think we get so caught up in everything that's new coming out that we tend to overconsume and overcompensate for the outdoor skills that we have and for the passion that we have for it. Sometimes I know I get lost in the minutia of just studying gear and things that I want for my trip instead of just enjoying my trip. Planned obsolescence. This is perhaps one of the biggest issues with the outdoor industry today. Unlike that Kelty pack that has been made for decades and that still has a version being sold today with only a slight variation, much of the gear that we consume today is planned to be obsolete by their makers in not too much time. If you're not releasing a new product every couple of years to replace your old one, you're less likely to grow your business. With a lot of this old gear, it seems like it was built to last decades, not necessarily to be replaced in 3 to 5 years. Look, new gear is amazing. It's lighter, faster, and more convenient, but in some ways it seems that we've lost some of the soulfulness our gear used to have. I encourage you to think critically about your gear choices, about the things you purchase, the things you buy, why you buy them, and if you really need them. Look, this isn't meant to be a guilt trip because I know I'm guilty. I'm even a participant in this mess. My reasons for reviewing gear is not necessarily to encourage you to consume everything possible, but rather to make very purposeful and intentional and correct gear choices from the start so that you can buy once, cry once, and ultimately I hope you buy less because you're buying better. At the end of the day, I'd rather you have all the information possible so that you can buy the right thing that's going to work for you and do what you wanted to do the first time, instead of just wasting money on gear that ends up in landfills, or that you replace in a year or two, or that just languishes in your garage for years to come because you never really liked it in the first place. But also, if you're just getting started into this, I don't want you to think that you have to get everything new and fancy, because it doesn't hurt to get started with some beginner gear, some less expensive gear, and then once you know what you like and what you want, you can move up to the next level, and I hope to help you with that too. What do you think? Is old gear better in some ways, or has modern tech got it right? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you want to buy less gear and buy better gear, subscribe to this channel for in-depth gear reviews so you can make the right choice the first time. And don't forget to sign up for the Honey Hole email newsletter. That'll help too. Now gear up and get outside.